Starting with a study that I was involved with in 2011, looking at the financial instruments existing in the regions and the gaps, question marks. Are there gaps here when it comes to implementing the Baltic Sea strategy? So it was a study commissioned by, or ordered by the Commission. And it was in 2011, but as we know, not many financial decisions have been made since then, so it's still pretty accurate, actually. And what was found here was that directly connected to this is that seed money was really needed. This give grounds for these initiatives that we've heard here being presented. More generally, that finding financing was considered a very difficult task when doing projects, and that you often turned to the Interreg programs, the ETC programs. So at that point, most of the flagship projects in the strategy were financed by ETC programs, and actually mainly one of those programs, the Baltic Sea Region program. But still, there were signs of aligning of funding, which means that more funding was used. So more than 20 at least were stated in these interviews made. We can sort of already hear the Nordic Council of Ministers actually being one of the more important of these other sources, and being quite a good example, I would say, or the best practice of aligning of funding, where they have found sort of the overlapping priorities between the strategy and the Nordic priorities, and being active in the development of the strategy. But also, the study also found that there's a lot of funding, and it has been said already. So more than 100 funding instruments available, as it says here, actually for each of the different priorities or objectives in the strategy. So there is not a shortage of financial instruments, but we need help to get them. So there's a need of hands-on guidance, and that, well, there's rather a structural gap than a financial one, which means that it's difficult to find them, it's difficult perhaps to use them for this purpose. So that there's a lot of need for help. So as I said, seed money was identified. Some certain sectors were more in need. Small investments were also identified as being difficult. But the major lack was actually the problem to work with transnational projects in other programs than Interreg. And that in the process of implementing the strategy, many wanted long-term projects instead, and more flexibility. We touched on the question of bureaucracy before, and that was mentioned quite a lot. So this is just to show that we measure the seed money interest and the feasibility study interest, and if you put those together there on your left side, you find that the financing of this pre-stage that we're now talking about was very important. So this gives good grounds for these initiatives, and it's clear that they have been very much appreciated. We have had a lot of of applications, no doubt, to these seed money facilities. But if we look to the future, then it has been said here already that there is a lot of funding. We have perhaps problems finding them and using them for the transnational purpose. But in the next program period, the EU programs should contribute to the Baltic Sea strategy. All programs, not only the Interreg ones going across borders, but also the regional programs. And out of these programs, 15% of the funding in a program can be used for activities outside of the program area. It's almost decided. This is a preliminary because it will be decided next week, I think. But this is likely to happen. And this is, of course, a huge source of financing. We have proposed in Sweden, in the Swedish programs, we have proposed to use this opportunity as hopefully as much as possible, and to facilitate this by introducing two options for project applicants. Either a normal option, you could say that cooperation is part of a regional program already when you start, already when you send in a normal application. But we know that that is not very common. So that's why we have added a proposal for a transnational component, which means that already granted projects in these regional programs, already ongoing and granted, can apply to add a cooperation to that ongoing project, to find a partnership and to add cooperation on what they are already working on. And why should this be what is the benefit? Well, we believe that then you have a very clear picture of your project. It's already running, your objectives. We can work with a very with a clear target group to inform about this possibility, and this can be added in a quite flexible way. That's what we hope for. And of course, this works much better if this is included in all programs in the region. If it's included in all programs, you can apply in Sweden for your part, and you can apply in the other country for the other part. And there's with open calls, there's a minimal need for coordination between managing authorities of the programs, for example. So that's what we gain with the flexibility here. So this is a proposal. We are spreading the word. We're discussing it, and this is looked upon favorably by the Commission as well. So we hope that this can be added, and this would, I think, would pave the way for much more cooperation in the region. I will finish with some short reflections apart from this, based on the presentations as well. It's clear, and it was clear already there in the study, that seed money was very important. I don't think that it's a question of bridging only, but the impression is that seed money is important. There are a lot of new actors coming into cooperation thanks to the strategy. So my comment would be to keep seed money facilities even when the next program period starts with the new programs, EU programs, etc. and that this is introduced in programs, EU programs that do not have it in this program period, to introduce it. It's a possibility to perhaps to introduce also advice into a seed money facility, that you do not only give seed money, but you also give support with it. So make it perhaps a bit more like technical assistance, and advise them on where to apply for the next step, for the main project, since we know that this is problematic. But that calls for, of course, for someone to do it, and perhaps, I don't know, perhaps this initiative could be a start of that kind of cooperation, that kind of information gathering that could be sort of then passed on to seed money applicants. The proposal here of using the 15% in regional programs will make awareness rising very important, because these decisions in these programs, as you know, are made by local regional politicians, and it might be quite new to work with transnational cooperation. Awareness raising where you and your experiences will be very important. And then finally, the role of the banks, investment banks like the European Investment Bank, the Nordic Investment Bank, should perhaps be discussed more thoroughly. We know that the European Investment Bank now has a technical assistance facility for the Danube strategy, for example. Is that interesting also for this part of the region, Europe? Thanks.